This is a video to explain the decision maker pathway. So the Delta School District, along with some decision making scientists, have come up with a handbook, which is a long form process that can be used at multiple grade levels according to the ability of the students. But to use it as a shorter kind of one-off assignment, or along with some assignments in the experiences that we'll be doing here with the work that we're doing in my science classroom, we actually go and use the same format, the same questions, but a truncated version that students can actually do in one or two sittings, depending on what it is. So the decision maker pathway is actually a series of questions that you walk yourself through and really dive as deep as you can into each one of the areas. So I'm going to read you the questions just so that you have an idea of how it works. And then from there, I've translated these questions into two different assignments that I do with my students, so they get two chances to walk through the process. And when I explain this to my students, I say, if you master this practice, when you have to go make a big decision in your life, you will have a much easier time of doing that because you will have this practice there. And I also joke with them that they will actually never lose an argument with their parents or not get what they want with their parents because they will have thought of all of the angles that go along with it. So the practice here is frame the choice, or like, what is the question that we're actually asking? So being very specific with the question is the first piece of things to know. What matters is the next one. So when I have this, I have it with multiple questions that go along below it. Like, why is this important? Why do you think that it's important? Who's going to be affected by the choice that you are making, or the answer to the question that you're coming up with. Then you come up with, what are the options that are available to you? Sometimes it's very easy. It's one or the other. I always push my students, though, so that it doesn't become a pro and cons list. I push them to have multiple options. So at least 3. Sometimes students will go crazy and go as many as 5 options, but then with the next step, it actually becomes quite hard. So finding the best 2 or 3 options that they can think of makes it better. From there, you have to break down those actual options. So what are the consequences for each one of the options? So if we do this, what is the trade-off, or what am I getting and what am I giving up? And then they have to support each one of those trade-offs or those consequences with like evidence. So what evidence do they have to be able to say those things? They weigh the trade-offs. So when they're looking at, okay, here's what I'm giving up, then they balance and they look as if you had a chart. You could actually be like, okay, well, this one's better than this one, but not in this next area, but not in this next area. So you have these multiple kind of thinking through steps. And so is there things that you're ready to give up for A that you would want if you had B? And how can we reduce the downsides, right? Is there ways that we can compromise or find a way to make it so that there is no downside to this whole thing? From there, the last thing is stay curious. Now, this is the hardest one to wrap your head around. It's a little bit of a challenge for myself in some situations, but we say, like, what questions, it's stay curious, and it's what questions are still lingering, right? What else haven't we thought about? And what happens if I go with this decision? Is there another option that then opens up after that? So it's, what are the knock-on effects from the decision that you take? And so once you have your process, you've asked the good question, you've decided what matters, you've looked at the options, you've looked at all the trade-offs, then you finally are able to come up with, okay, well, after all of my like back and forth, trading off, whatever, you come up with like, okay, this is it. This is the thing that I'm going to do. And that's the process. So once you've got that set up, then you can actually go and apply that multiple step process to many of the assignments that you'll deal with. You can do it on a long-term basis. You can have this as one scientific thought, or one scientific thought that you're carrying out through the whole year, right? It can be used for space. It can be used for chemistry. It can be used for, in our case, nuclear energy or modern genetics, and you'll see those videos below. So I hope you like this process. I will put companion links to the Delta School District's website, as well as anything else that I can find for you. But it's a useful tool. I'll have a template perhaps as well, but I'll have everything beside this video as a companion. And at the worst, just use the Delta School District's website link that I'll have here for you. All right, see you soon.